You know that moment when you're about to do something really stupid, and you know that it's stupid, and maybe dangerous too, but you also know that in that moment, you're going to do it anyway. Who's with me here? So, December 6th, 2012, I was getting ready to take my first run down the skeleton track. Now, for those of you who don't know what skeleton is, it's a sport where we go head first down an ice track on essentially a glorified cafeteria tray at speeds often in excess of 75 miles an hour. And here's what 75 miles an hour looks like when it's going well. So I was in Park City, Utah at the Olympic track. It was my turn to go. And I was a little scared and I thought about bailing on it. My brother Ray was there with me. And Ray was at the bottom of the track waiting for me because he'd just gone. So for those of you who have siblings, you know what that meant, right? I was going. So it was my turn. I climbed on the sled, and the instructor let me go, and I was on my way down the track. And for about 10 seconds, things were going really well. I went around the first turn, kept a low line, came out going about 15 miles an hour. Pretty quickly, 15 turned to 25, which turned to 35, which turned to 45 miles an hour. And I was flying down that track, feeling out of control, going high up on the turns and flying down off them. By the time I got to the bottom of that track, my eyes were bugged out. My mouth, my throat, completely parched. And all I kept thinking as I came up the run out and finally came to a stop was, when do I get to do this again? 2 years later, in February of 2015, I met with David Graves, the president of the Israeli Skeleton Federation. In that meeting, I committed myself to race internationally for Israel. And in that meeting, I committed myself to go all in on the ultimate goal, an audacious journey that would eventually lead me to Pyeongchang, South Korea, and the 2018 Olympics. Me, a 5'8", 150-pound, 43-year-old man, signing up to race against elite athletes in their 20s and early 30s. Now, Manav Modi says that every person in history who's achieved anything unrealistic was able to deeply envision their dreams before it became their reality. Well, I had my unrealistic dream, and I could see it. Now I can see the looks on some of your faces. Larry, you look like you're built a little more for chess than for the Olympics. Larry, you were 43. Wasn't it time to be a little more realistic with your dreams? And in some ways, you'd be right. Because as we grow up and as we get older, so many of us lose our ability to think big, to dream big, and then to chase those dreams. And I mean our real ones. Well, this is me on my first day sliding for Israel. And this would not be an easy journey. You can see the pride and the joy on my face that first day. And about an hour later, blood everywhere. I crashed out of a turn, my chin dragged on the ice, burst open, I had to go to the hospital and get stitches. And I still have a little souvenir. I was reminded very early on in that journey that it was not going to be an easy journey. I want to tell you a little story about my family. At the end of last year, we all got excited about watching some of the World Cup soccer. And we'd sit on the couch together. My son Marcus, who's 3, me, 50, my son Lucas, who was 5 at the time, and my wife Kirsten, who was happy to be there on the couch with us, watching TV with their boys. And we really enjoyed that time together, and Lucas in particular took a fancy to some of those players and to a few of those teams. And so it should have come as no surprise to me a few months later when Lucas said, "Dada, when I grow up, I want to be better than Messi and Mbappe. I want to be the best soccer player in the world." Whoa. My first instinct as his father was to protect my son from the possibility of failure and disappointment. Maybe tell him to try for something more reasonable. But my better instincts took over. Because what would be the lesson? Why stop him from chasing his dreams? So instead I said, that would be really cool. And then I went into this fatherly spiel about how he was going to have to practice a lot and work really hard if he wanted to get that good at soccer. Because what is the downside? I mean, what if he dreams big and learns that hard work is the best way to achieve? And that practice is how we get better at, well, anything. That the journey is a big part of defining success. And that there are plenty of endings that can be considered successful for his journey. What is the downside? And that got me thinking a little more about how we embrace that idea for our kids, but not for ourselves as adults. And I thought, why don't we as adults dream big anymore? You know, with our kids, we tell them they can be anything. You want to be an astronaut? You can be an astronaut. You want to be a firewoman, a policeman, a teacher, a nurse. We tell our kids that if they work hard and if they really want it, they can do it. But we don't give ourselves that same message. And I wondered why. So I started to research. And as I dug into the research, over and over, the same message came back. Fear. Fear is the main reason. Jim Carrey, the comedian, says that so many of us choose our path based on fear disguised as practicality. Fear of leaving our comfort zone. Fear of failure. Fear of not meeting the expectations of others. And then I thought a little bit more about my journey. And I had noticed along my journey that there were some people in my life who didn't seem like they wanted me to take that journey. And they weren't really supportive, and they almost kind of tried to get me not to. And so I thought, why do other people cut down our dreams? And I wondered, is this unique to me and my story? Or is there more to this? So more research. And also reaching out to friends and other people who have been in these kinds of situations. And it actually turns out that there's a theory that we talk our friends and family out of dreaming big because we're afraid to do it ourselves. And what if they succeed and we never even tried? Now, in my case, I was lucky. Most of the people closest to me supported my dream. My wife was with me all the way through my time as an international athlete. Year 1 was easy. We traveled the world together. Year 2, she was home, pregnant, while I was competing. And in year 3, for 3 months we were traveling with a baby who did not want to sleep. When I say that Kirsten supported me, she was all in. When we chase our dreams, it is critical that we have our support team around us. And since fear so often prevents us from chasing our dreams, the question of how we measure failure and success is also critical. Because if we don't believe we can succeed, we won't even try. I think of Lucas, I think of my son and his dream. And what if he spends the next 15 years trying to be the greatest soccer player in the world? And during that time, he spends 15 years loving soccer. And he makes some lifetime friends out there on the field along the way. Maybe in high school, his team is really good and they get to win a state championship together. And senior year, he could be the captain of that team. There are so many ways that Lucas can have success along his journey, regardless of whether or not he meets that ultimate goal he's setting. So what if we become afraid to dream or afraid to try? In a funny way, it seems like the Olympics have always been a part of my life. I was born in Grenoble, France, 4 years after they hosted the Winter Olympics. Born in 1972, the year that the Israeli Olympians were tragically killed in the Munich Games. But for me, in 1984, it was the first time that I fell in love with the Olympics. And it was a hot summer in Connecticut. And in my house, the coolest room was the basement. So for weeks, I slept in the basement, and I'd stay up late at night with the volume turned down, watching those Olympic Games. And it was the Los Angeles Olympics. And so to me, it became the summer of Mary Lou Retton, Carl Lewis and his 4 gold medals. And it was incredible. I fell in love with the Olympics for a second time in 2006 when I went to Torino on a whim with 2 brand new friends. And then after that, I went to the next 4 Olympics. And in 2012, I took a leap of faith, and I left my tenured teaching position in Connecticut to move to Lake Tahoe and work on a bid to host the Olympics. Practical? Hardly. Still, nobody could have predicted that 5 years later, I would be on the cusp of my own Olympic bid. My final season as a skeleton athlete was the 2017-18 season leading up to those games in Pyeongchang. I was joined by my wife and our son Lucas, who was a baby and was actually in part named after the French skeleton athlete and our friend, Lucas de Fayette. In a full circle moment, my final qualifying races were held in La Plagne, France, not more than a 2-hour drive from the city of my birth, and the home track of Lucas de Fayette, no less. By the time those races ended on December 16th, I had achieved some amazing things. I had run a personal best downtime on every track I'd been on that year. I had gone personal speed record of 84 miles an hour, 135 kilometers an hour down the infamous Whistler Olympic track. I'd scored 125 international points, more than my previous 2 seasons combined. And I'd raced myself into Olympic qualifying position, provided that I could finish the season as a top-ranked Israeli athlete. In 2015, I dreamed big when I joined the Israeli skeleton team with the goal of competing in those 2018 Olympics. I was a 43-year-old, 150-pound man, 2 years removed from a microfracture knee surgery, with an audacious dream to chase. By the time I got to those Olympics in February, my dream had changed. I'm going to show you a quick video clip from those Olympics, and then I'm going to let you in on a little secret. That's me, up in the stands, wearing the Israeli Olympic gear, cheering on my teammate as he crossed the finish line. You see, in spite of my best efforts, I finished that year as the 3rd-ranked Israeli skeleton athlete, and I was named an Olympic alternate. To make my time at the Olympics more meaningful, I worked as an assistant coach, taking video and providing feedback on the runs to my teammate and several other partners. I chased my audacious dream, and by some measures, I'd failed. I could have walked away from 4 years of skeleton as a failure. But instead, I chose to focus on my successes and to build on those successes. I signed on as the Secretary General of the Israeli Federation so that I could help the next generation of athletes chase their goals, chase their Olympics. And I took those experiences that I had as an international athlete, transferred them to my professional life, to my personal life, to try to be a better person, starting with supporting the people close to me and chasing their dreams. I have another secret for you. This is actually not about my story. It's about yours. You see, at the end of the day, we're each the sum of our life experiences. That's what makes us special. It's what makes us unique. It's what makes us who we are. Wayne Gretzky says that you miss every shot that you don't take. If you don't chase after the things that you're most passionate about, If you don't go after your dreams, you don't have those experiences. And they will never become a part of who you are. So this is your time to think again. I'm asking each one of you here today to contemplate right here and now, what dreams have you left behind? And why did you leave them behind? And most importantly, what are you going to do about it now? My friend Brad Kearns is a retired elite triathlete. He has a podcast, and the tagline he uses is "Get over yourself." Because Brad understands how we are sometimes the thing that gets in our own way in achieving and in chasing our dreams. So I urge all of you to get over yourself and to go out and chase your own audacious dream. Thank you.